today that actually doubt the divinity of Jesus. They highly revere Jesus, just like Islam. So there's interesting parallels there. I also show in the book that in Europe in the 16th, 17th centuries, this Unitarian movement was seen as a Muslim conspiracy.
Okay.
Because, these Unitarians were saying things that are a bit similar to Islam. They sympathize with Islam. Actually, one of them escaped persecution in Germany, went to the Ottoman Empire, and became a Muslim. So that became evidence that this is a big Islamic conspiracy, Now we have more conspiracy theories in our side of the world, unfortunately, but it was not a conspiracy. It was just, some Christians look at the Ottomans and look at the Islamic teachings, and they said, oh, actually, this is similar to what we're saying. So these are the Unitarian Christians. So these are their differences. And I think one thing I also do in the book is to look into terms, as you mentioned, like Son of God, right? I mean, that's not a term we accept. That's what Christians use to define Jesus. But even that, there are some nuances. In Hebrew, the term Son of God was used in the sense that sometimes we call Ibrahim alayhi salam Khalilullah, the friend of God. Like, it was not that somebody is divine, but a son of God would be somebody that God loves and elevates. So in Hebrew, there's a usage like that. That was before Christianity. So there are some Islamic scholars in the earlier centuries who said, if Christians mean son of God in that sense, maybe we can discuss that. But of course, if you use the term son of God to say he is God incarnate, which is what mainstream Christianity says, that is not acceptable from an Islamic point of view. Also, the Quran condemns, there are two words in Arabic, for example. One is veled, which is a biological son, and the other one is ibn, which could be a metaphorical son. When the Quran condemns those who say that God has a son, it almost always uses veled, which means the people who think God has a biological son, which means, na'uzubillah, God had a sexual relationship with somebody, and so it's like a carnal relationship. So even terms, the thing is, terms can change meaning when you say it in a different context. In a Hebrew Jewish context, the term son of God didn't mean that somebody is divine, but if you say it in a different context, it started to mean that somebody is divine. And one thing I stress also in the book is that in all these theological issues, we Muslims are actually close to Judaism most of the time than Christianity, actually. We have great respect for Jesus. We have great respect for the Christian text, and there are a lot of things, there's a lot of similarities, but theologically, our understanding of God is more close to Judaism, which also is very strong in its emphasis on strict monotheism.
So let's talk about what is Jesus in Islam. I mean, we went into discussion about Christianity and Jesus, but the main thing is that how Muslims believe, what Muslims believe Jesus is, and how Quran mentions Jesus. So tell us something about that.
Thank you. Actually, it is very interesting. I sometimes, begin the discussion with this. There is only one woman in the Quran who's mentioned by her name. Now,
that must be my mother.
That is your mother. God bless her. And your daughter and granddaughter, is that I understand?
Yes, I have a grandson, Isa, and a granddaughter, Mary.
Yeah, that is fascinating. I mean, actually, a lot of Christians or non-Muslims, of course, assume Prophet Muhammad have written the Quran, right? And I say, if he wrote the Quran, wouldn't he put his mother or his daughter into it, right? No, I mean, the Quran says almost nothing about the Prophet Muhammad's family, just some incidents with his later wives. And these are to extract broader lessons for the Ummah. We don't read in the Quran anything about Prophet Muhammad's birth or mother or family history. We hear about Jesus or Moses, even great. Because the Quran, as I always say, the Quran doesn't speak about Prophet Muhammad. The Quran speaks to him. So the Quran is educating him about, and the Ummah through him, of course, former prophets, and puts them in the Islamic perspective. I mean, it's fascinating that the only woman mentioned in the Quran, and she's also defined as a woman that God elevated above all other women. That's a verse in the Quran. So she's the highest. She has the highest status, honor, if you will, given to any female, and that's Mary. And Mary, Maryam, in Arabic, there's a whole chapter, chapter 19. And there we read that she was a virgin. She was not touched by any man. She was raised with Zechariah as under the guidance of a prophet in a temple. Then one day she heard the angel saying that God will give you a son. She says, how can I have a son? No man has touched me. And they say God creates whatever he wills, and you will have a son. So, and then we hear the birth of Jesus. Now, in my book, I explain all these Quranic narratives, which you can find in 2 chapters in the Quran, 2 surahs, Maryam and Ali Imran. I also show that they are very similar to the Gospel of Luke. So there are similarities. However, there are also differences. For example, in the Quran, we read that Mary gave birth to Jesus under a palm tree in the wilderness.